All right, welcome to class, everyone. Let's jump straight into this explainer because today we are systematically tearing down the romanticized myth of the gold rush. For decades, we've been sold this shiny, glamorous Hollywood version of history. But today, we're looking way past that glimmering promise of sudden wealth to uncover the visceral, downright tragic reality of the lone prospector. We're going to explore what it really meant to chase gold.
I want you to really put yourself in their shoes for a second. Imagine packing up everything, leaving your comfortable home, your family, your basic safety, just to chase one single elusive thing: gold. You're stepping out into the total unknown for the promise of overnight riches. But what you actually find is unimaginable suffering. As we'll see today, for the vast majority of these folks, this dream wasn't some golden ticket to a better life. It was a devastating, deadly trap.
Section 1. The illusion of wealth.
Okay, so we all know the textbook American dream, right? Becoming rich, powerful, successful. Well, that fantasy violently clashed with the stark reality on the ground. People rushed out to these unknown lands truly believing that gold was going to magically elevate their status. But instead of overflowing pockets, they were greeted by daily starvation, grinding exhaustion, and rampant disease. The contrast between that glittering fantasy in their heads and the mud-soaked, freezing reality of their daily lives, it literally couldn't have been more extreme.
Which brings us to Section 2, the deadly journey.
Honestly, just getting to the gold fields was a massive feat of human endurance. These prospectors faced incredibly long travel times through unforgiving, harsh weather with absolutely zero proper roads to guide them. And the physical toll? Unimaginable. So many hopeful individuals succumbed to sheer exhaustion, severe hunger, and unchecked disease, literally dying on the trail long before they ever saw a single flake of gold. They risked it all, and man, so many lost everything on the journey alone.
Section 3. Mud, sweat, and starvation.
If you actually survived the trip out there, the life of a miner was just crushing. Endless monotony. First, you're digging for grueling hours in literally freezing cold water. Then, you're mindlessly washing dirt and heavy rocks under a blistering, harsh sun. And finally, you go to sleep with empty hands. It was backbreaking labor in a bleak, miserable, mud-filled landscape. Just think about the visceral sensory details here. The freezing water chilling you straight to the bone, the searing heat, the endless, inescapable dirt. This was their daily suffering. And most days, they found absolutely nothing.
And look, getting out of the freezing water didn't mean relief. They returned to filthy, crowded camps that offered zero comfort. No proper shelter, no clean water, and a complete lack of basic hygiene. Because of this, rampant disease spread like wildfire. Without real medical help, a minor little cold could easily become life-threatening. Plus, the economic factors were just brutal, causing widespread bankruptcy. Basic supplies were incredibly scarce, meaning food was severely limited and exorbitantly expensive. Miners spent whatever little cash they had just to survive on pitiful rations, leading to constant hunger and profound weakness.
Section 4. Lawless camps and violence.
To really grasp the historical impact here, class, picture thousands of desperate miners crammed into the exact same miserable space, all searching through the very same mud. Everyone's desperate. Everyone's weak from hunger. Everyone thinks today is the day they strike it rich. With thousands of people competing for the exact same elusive prize, the tension was just palpable. And inevitably, it boiled over into absolute chaos. The fight wasn't just against the earth anymore, it was against each other.
And remember, law and order were practically non-existent out there. As a lone miner, you were completely on your own. No police, no real protection from a, frankly, terrifying reality. Fights were a common, daily occurrence. People frequently stole from one another, just desperate for any tiny advantage. Violence was incredibly real, and yes, some people even committed murder for gold. The danger from criminal violence was this ever-present shadow hanging over every single waking moment.
Now, if your fellow desperate miner didn't get you, well, the unforgiving environment probably would. Nature was a constant, looming threat. It's like the very earth they were tearing apart decided to fight back. Sudden landslides, devastating floods, and collapsing underground tunnels meant that one single mistake could end it all in a split second. Mother Nature claimed countless lives in the blink of an eye.
Buried under dirt, lost in accidents, forgotten. Man, that haunting quote from the historical record really summarizes the visceral tragedy of those who died working in the earth. So many miners took their final breaths trapped in the very mud they thought would make them rich, their identities entirely erased from history forever.
Section 5. The psychological toll.
Beyond the physical destruction of their bodies, we have to talk about the psychological torture, because it was immense. Let's look at the recorded story of a real prospector, Daniel Woods. His journal entries paint a totally devastating picture. He spent every last penny on overpriced supplies. Every single morning, he woke up shivering, totally convinced that today was the day he'd strike it rich. He dug until his hands literally bled, only to face constant, crushing disappointment, finding nothing but rocks and mud, day after day, month after month. He lost his health to the freezing water, his savings to the ridiculous camp economy, and his time to the endless dirt. The psychological toll of this constant hope, followed immediately by constant failure, completely broke men like him. They didn't just lose their money, they lost their minds, their hope, and eventually, their lives to the harsh reality of the camp.
Which leads us to Section 6, History's Brutal Warning. The historical reality is incredibly stark. We always hear the loud stories about the tiny, fractional sliver of guys who struck it rich. But the real truth is in the numbers. Less than 1% of miners ever found meaningful wealth. Think about that. For every single person who actually succeeded, thousands lost absolutely everything. Their time, their health, their money, their lives. Seeing how shockingly few actually found riches really turns the promise of the gold rush into a statistical nightmare.
So, the crucial takeaway here is this. The gold rush wasn't about achieving success. Not at all. It was simply about survival. This brutal chase destroyed so many dreams, proving that the pursuit of sudden, overnight wealth was mostly just a mirage. It was a devastating trap where most people lost far, far more than they ever stood to gain.
History isn't always an inspiring tale, folks. Sometimes it's a dark, shocking truth and a stark warning. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought. The next time you're tempted by some new get-rich-quick illusion, will you remember the horrific true cost of survival? Or are we as a society just doomed to endlessly chase the next gilded trap? Keep that in mind and never stop questioning those glittering promises of the past.